Welcome to Lancaster Story Slam and welcome to our Grand Slam event, which is themed Silver Linings. Tonight, we will crown the best storyteller in Lancaster 2020. Let's get this party started. I'm event producer Carla Wilson. Last year for Grand Slam, we were all sitting in a sold-out theater at the Ware Center. In January, we launched our 6th season, hosting the event live and in person at Zootropolis. And then COVID happened and made everything a little weird. In March, as you know, we switched to hosting the event via the Zoom platform. We thought we'd only need to do that for a few months, but here we are 9 months later. I really miss hosting this event in person, but I hope that you are enjoying some takeout food and drinks from Zootropolis while watching the event from the comfort and safety of your living room tonight. Cheers and hugs to you all. A reminder for everyone, this event is not censored and the stories are not curated. This means that outside of providing the theme of the evening and the scoring guidelines for our judges, we do not know what stories will be told. All storytellers sign a release form agreeing that their stories will be posted to YouTube and/or our podcast. We want storytellers to come to the stage and tell their tales and are reminded to tell their stories in a respectful manner for our audience. If not, judgment will be reflected in your scores. Normally, our ticket prices for Grand Slam are around $16. Since we have switched to this new platform, our event is now pay what you can. We have some production costs associated with setting up this online event, so we would greatly appreciate contributions that you make to us via Venmo or PayPal. I will have my team post links to both resources in the chat window for you. Any contributions received will go toward our production costs, and a portion will go to our friends at Zootropolis who we'd like to continue to support. Surprise! Guess what? We are actually hosting the event at Zootropolis tonight. Here's a little welcome back video.
Hi everybody, it's Carla. As you can tell, surprise, we are filming Grand Slam here at Zootropolis. You remember this great place. Come on in, let's go. Remember, we go into the lobby here, so we kind of change some things around so that there are places for people to sit and they can sit for dinner. Oh, hi you guys. And I have my standing room only ticket, so I'm going to give that to Vicki. She's going to stamp my hand just like old times. Here we go. Thank you, Doug. And here we are in the theater, and don't forget, Melissa stands here, and she helps everybody sign up to tell stories and gets judges. And then here's the theater. Remember this awesome room? This is just really the best room for us, isn't it? We love this theater, so I wanted to work with the staff at Zootropolis so that we could record Grand Slam here so we could at least feel like we're having a normal story slam again this year. And we've got, everybody's practicing social distancing and wearing their masks when they're not eating. So we were staying very safe with this production tonight. So thank you so much, and I'll give you some more details in a little bit.
Well, isn't this fun? When we host our event in person, I always start the evening by asking, how many of you are here for the first time? Yay, because of my magic mirror, I can see those of you out there raising your hands and clapping. Welcome. Thank you for being part of our awesome, talented community. For those of you who may not know, our event is held each month on the 4th Tuesday. We post themes for the month on our website, and storytellers sign up to tell a story based on the theme, which is about 5 minutes in length. A winner is chosen to win one of our prized pint glasses and earns a spot in our Grand Slam in November. Tonight is the culminating event of this year, and we have brought back all our winners from January through October to compete. We have 10 storytellers tonight. You'll hear stories from Swapna Deshpande, Steve McLean, Tony Crocamo, Beth Horenkamp, Tom Bottiger, Paul Armstrong, Jamie Beth Cohen, Randy Schulz, Mark Lentz, and Doc Yoder. Let's give them all a round of applause. For our finalists and all other storytellers out there, I want you to know that I learned many lessons from your stories. You inspire me to be a better listener, make me laugh, and educate me to be less judgmental. To you, I am grateful. Thank you. Please allow me to introduce our MC for this evening, Luanne Sims. Luanne has been a Grand Slam champion at both the Delco and Westchester Story Slams and a winner at the Moth Story Slam in Philly. She recently had a story featured on the Moth Radio Hour. Luanne is a co-host on the morning magazine at Chester County radio station WCHE. In non-pandemic times, she and fellow storyteller Terry Heyman host a story slam every other month in Westchester, PA called 10 Stories. Without further ado, please welcome Luanne Sims.
Thank you. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the Lancaster Story Slam Grand Slam 2020, or what I also like to refer to as the Lancaster World Championships of Storytelling. The theme tonight is Silver Linings, and that is a fantastic theme for a Grand Slam and also for the crazy times that we have been living in, because we've all gotten really good at finding the silver linings in really sucky situations. Thank you to Carla and the entire team for letting me be here tonight. It is so exciting to be standing on the stage back at Zotropolis. We miss the audience. We only have our storytellers here. We know that you're out there, and we appreciate all of your support throughout this entire year so that Lancaster Story Slam could continue and thrive. Thrive, I say, because we have a superb lineup of 10 storytellers tonight who will be competing for the title of Best Storyteller of the Year for Lancaster, however we work out that exact wording. And, you know, each of those storytellers has earned their spot here tonight by winning one of the monthly regular slams throughout the year. So I know we are in store for some outstanding stories and looking forward to that tonight. The only thing standing between us and those wonderful stories is a review of the rules and meeting our judges for the evening. Let me review the rules very quickly before we begin. Rule number 1, the stories you hear should reflect the theme of the evening, which, as we just mentioned, is silver linings. Silver linings. Storytellers can interpret that theme in any way they can make it work for their story. Rule number 2, the story should be true to the best of your recollection. To the best of your recollection. But these are not works of fiction. These are true stories that actually happened to you. Hopefully you are the main character in your story as well. Rule number 3, no notes, no props, and no music. Just you and the microphone tonight. And rule number 4, what I like to call the hardest rule of storytelling, your story should be about 5 minutes long. Now, we have some reminders in place to help you know when you are at the 5-minute mark tonight. Here's what we're going to do. At 5 minutes, you're going to hear this nice warning to let you know that you've hit that time and you should begin to wrap up your story. There we go. That's a nice little ding. You're at 5 minutes. Wind it up so we can keep the night flowing. If you continue going on at 6 minutes, you're going to hear this. And as my notes say, that is your cue to get the hell off the stage. We have 3 judges in person here with us tonight, which we have not had since February, I think, so that is super exciting. Please help me welcome our 3 judges. First, we have JJ Sheffer. JJ produces York Story Slam, York Crafted, and several other arts and humanities programs in York that focus on storytelling. She is a massive fan of Story Slams in general and Lancaster Story Slam in particular. She lives across the river but considers Lancaster to be part of her neighborhood. Thank you, JJ, for being here tonight. Next, we have Donna Talarico-Beerman. Donna Talarico is an independent writer and founder, publisher of Hippocampus magazine and books and its annual conference, Hippocamp. She previously worked in radio, e-commerce, and higher education marketing. Donna speaks frequently at conferences and has work published in The Guardian, The Writer, Mental Floss, and the Los Angeles Review. She loves road trips and greasy diner breakfasts. And through Ancestry.com, we found out that we are the 17th cousins, or something like that. Yes, which is super, super exciting news for me. Yeah, how about that? And our third judge is Mustafa Nuur. Mustafa is a Somali former refugee, an advocate, and the founder of Bridge, a social enterprise platform that lets people book cross-cultural experiences with refugees from around the world locally. He is now spreading his platform to many communities across the country to promote dialogue and understanding between people. Thank you, Mustafa. Please give him a welcome as well. Each of our judges tonight will give each storyteller 2 scores on a scale from 1 to 10, a score for content and a score for presentation. Content: does the story have substance? Is there a story arc? Does it have a beginning, a middle, and an end? And presentation: how good is the story's delivery? Is the storyteller engaging? Do they captivate the audience? And have they kept their story to around 5 minutes? That's where you can take points off if they have not. Judges are reminded that scores must be in whole numbers because we're incapable of doing the math otherwise. And tonight for the Grand Slam, we're doing things a little differently from our regular in-person story slams. And that is the judges will be recording their scores at their seats, and the scores will be tabulated at the end of the evening, but scores will not be announced out loud for individual storytellers tonight. So we will be keeping everyone in suspense throughout the entire evening. And the stakes are high because the winner of tonight's Story Slam will receive the championship trophy. Is that an actual working microphone? I don't know. It does not function as a microphone, but it looks beautiful. That's what you want on your desk, your breakfast table, wherever you want to keep it. And we'll have their name engraved on the Storytellers Cup to be immortalized for all time as the 2020 champion for the best storyteller in Lancaster for the year. Who doesn't want 2020 connected with their name forever? So that's what you're playing for tonight. As we mentioned, we are short on audience members, though we do have some people here. We have our other storytellers and our judges, so we're going to have to work really hard to provide a lot of good clapping. Hopefully someone can do that whistle thing where you do the 2 fingers for each of our storytellers. I was in a game show audience one time, and they made us clap for 2 minutes straight while smiling and looking at the camera. It was exhausting. So by the end of the night, you might get a little tired, but we need to clap enough for 200 people here tonight, and I'm sure we'll do a good job of that. And with that, I think we're ready to call up our first storyteller of the evening. I have 2 pockets full of storytellers. I have 5 in my left pocket and 5 in my right pocket, and I am just going no order. I'm just going to pull them out randomly. So here we go. Our first storyteller to kick off the 2020 Grand Slam is Tom Bottiger. Let me tell you a little bit about Tom. Tom is a retired TV producer and writer and is now courageously defending his home from deer and stink bugs. Tom won the May Story Slam with the theme Not What I Intended, with his story of working for a television station and accidentally violating broadcast standards. Please give a very big welcome to Tom Bottiger to kick it off.
The thing about a silver lining is it always comes after the storm. You never see one and think, uh-oh, storm's coming. You know it's the other way around. So no matter how bleak your circumstances, no matter how stormy or disgusting your situation, you can take heart in knowing that there's a silver lining somewhere down the road. One wintry, snowy, blizzardy, cold day, a friend of mine and I decided to go to the Philadelphia Auto Show. And I hadn't taken a train in a while, so we decided to take the train. And the weather was bad enough that I just barely got to the train station in time to park, run through the station, and jump on the train before it left. But we made it, and after we settled in, I decided I better go to the men's room. So I walk up to the front of the car, and there's nothing there. I walk to the back of the car, there's nothing there. So I go up to the conductor and I say, I'm sorry, but where's the next stop where I can jump off real quick, use the men's room, and then get back on again? And he says, not till 30th Street Station. There are no restrooms on these stations or in this train. And this is Amtrak. This is not Amtrak, this is SEPTA. And this is bad news, because I had to go. I was going to go at the train station before I got on, but I didn't have time because I was in a hurry. So I walk back to my friend and I say, I have to go to the bathroom, but there's none on this train. So I try to distract myself. I look out the window and I watch all these beautiful houses going down the main line. And it kind of hits me, every one of these houses has a bathroom. He has a bathroom, he has a bathroom, he has a bathroom, he has a bathroom. There's hundreds of bathrooms passing me by my window, and there's not one on this damn train. So I say, okay, get a grip, you're a mature man, you can do this. And I said, I'm getting to where I want to go, and I'm also getting very expansive here. And I decide I better stand up. I'm starting to feel a pressure building in my abdomen, and I figure if I stand up, that way there's a little more room for expansion, and maybe the fluids that are building up can find some nooks and crannies that are being underutilized right now. And when I was standing up, I noticed the door leading out of my car is solid, and there's a little window way up high, and then there's a platform between the two cars, and then another door with a little window way up high. And it occurs to me that somebody could stand on that platform and nobody could tell what he's doing. And it also occurred to me I had an empty water bottle in my hand. So I watched those two doors for a while, and they were bouncing up and down, side to side, totally out of sync. And I decided, no, that's crazy. There's no way you can stand on that platform and hit this moving target. That's just nuts. He's got a bathroom, he's got a bathroom, he's got a bathroom, he's got a bathroom. I'm starting to sweat. I know it's the tension, I know it's the stress, but I wipe my hand across my forehead, and it's soaking wet. And I think, wait a minute, my body's filling up with a fluid, and now a fluid is coming out of my head? Now, I'm no biology major, but that seems like a very strange connection, but I have to investigate. So I go, no, there's no ammonia smell, that's totally crazy. Get a grip on yourself. Finally, when I think I'm about ready to explode, the conductor says, next stop, 30th Street Station. So I tell my friend, hey, we're getting off. I'm not going to make it to Convention Center. So we get ready. I'm standing. I start jumping up and down. I figure if I keep the fluid mobile, it may be able to stay up in the air a little bit. My friend stands up. He starts jumping up and down out of sympathy. And people were looking at us really weird, but I don't care. And that train just crawls into 30th Street Station. It finally comes to a stop. We go running up the steps, down the hallway. I lose my friend because I'm going faster than he is. I see a sign marked restrooms. I go down the steps. I see a urinal. It's mine. I get right up to it, and I arrive. Now, there are only a certain number of major milestones in a man's life, but those 30 seconds at that urinal were miraculous. The room got brighter. My tunnel vision opened up, and I could see things in the periphery again. And I had just lost weight. So when I was finished, I go bounding up the steps. I'm happier, I'm lighter. I look for my friend. I go to the big grand concourse there at 30th Street Station, and I see the sun has come out. The sun is blooming through those tall, beautiful windows, and it's shining down on all the people in the concourse, and I realize it's shining down on them and me, and it's edging them with a silver lining. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Everybody have another round of applause for Tom. Awesome job. Except now I feel like I have to go. I'm actually planning to drive to Florida to visit my parents for Christmas, who I have not seen in almost a year. And the only thing I'm afraid of is the trip down. And I'm considering whether or not I can hold it for 16 hours. We'll see. I'll let you know in January if I made it or not. Our next storyteller is going to be Mark Lentz, pulled out of my left pocket. Mark is a biology and environmental science high school teacher for over 30 years by day and storyteller by night. He lives with Kim, the wife, and their 2 dogs, Charlie Brown and Clam Chowder. Outstanding pet names. Outstanding wife name, too, I should say. Mark won the September Slam with the theme All Grown Up, with the story of how he finally grew up enough to pass organic chemistry. Please welcome Mark.
Good evening. I was away coaching wrestling February many years ago, and I get a message from my wife. Should I buy him? And it's a picture of the cutest little English setter puppy ever. I responded back, yes. My dog at the time was a lab. She was 16 years old. She was awesome. No better way to train a puppy than with an older dog that knows what's going on. So I came home and we had this puppy, Bentley. And he learned quick. Lucy trained him. He learned to fetch and swim and help me catch fish and all that stuff. So Bentley and the other dogs and I, we had a habit of going down to the river in the summer because we lived a quarter of a block from it. And we would fetch balls and swim and chase ducks and do all that cool stuff in the summer. 5 years ago in July, we're down there swimming. And Bentley was an amazing athlete. He would run with me when I rode mountain bike. He was amazing. He had a little cough. And I thought, he has a cold. Because dogs get colds, just like we do. This cough persisted for 2 days, and he got a little lethargic. I thought, well, I'm calling the doctor. So I called the doctor, and I take Bentley in. And I'm thinking it's just a cold. No big deal. So we go in. The doctor looks at him and says, I want to do some x-rays. She takes him away, and I'm sitting in the little waiting room. And she comes back with the news. Bentley had very aggressive lung cancer. Hey, I'll do anything for my dogs. I said, what do we need to do, Doc? She said, there's nothing you can do. So I said, can I have 24 hours? She said, absolutely. I couldn't even call my wife and tell her. Bentley was really her dog. So, what do you do in your last 24 hours? We went to Home Depot because he loved that. We walked in, and I didn't know. Home Depot changed their dog rules. I'm crying. I'm not gonna lie about it. I was a mess. And I told the guy, my dog's dying. We just want to walk around the store one time. He just walked away from me. So we did the slow walk through Home Depot. By the time we got to the front, all the workers were there. They all petted him. We left. That night, Kim and I spent the entire night with him. It was our last night. We stayed up the whole time. We held his paws. We held each other. That's one of the silver linings, by the way. At about 4 a.m., Bentley got up, went over to the door, which meant he wanted to pee. He went out, peed. We had this huge trough that we used for a rain barrel. The dogs love drinking out of it. Don't ask me why. They love outdoor water. He walked over, took a couple sips, walked in, jumped on the couch because our dogs are allowed anywhere. And at 4:17 a.m., he passed away. You got to wonder why dogs die so young. It's because they already know how to love everyone. Bentley reminded Kim and I that we need to do that with one another. Sometimes in life you need to be a bit of an alchemist and turn worthless things into valuable things. I had to really try here. Somebody sent me the dog's last will and testament. I doubled down my efforts volunteering for the dog rescue. I would do longer trips, do more trips. I do transports. The weekend after Bentley died, I drove the whole way to Bedford to drop a dog off just because it was for him. I started doing overnight because some of these trips took several days. I now run a doggy B&B. I had one this past weekend. My other 2 dogs love the guest. I'll do short-term foster, but I usually fail at that. They end up becoming one of our dogs. So there were many silver linings. I love being the stork. That's the driver who delivers the dog to the new home. And seeing the love on their faces, the same love that Bentley taught me.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, no more sad dog stories, okay? That is really very emotional. Paco, if you're watching, I love you very much, and I'll be home in a few hours. Beautiful, beautiful, and so great for you to be a dog stork. Okay, I'm pulling from the right pocket this time. Not that you know which pocket your name may be in. Next up, we have Randy Schulz. Randy recently retired after 35 years in business. He likes hiking, yoga, swimming, bicycling, writing, and reading. He is a native of the Chicago area, and he and his wife have lived in Lancaster for the past 15 years. Randy won the August Story Slam with the theme Firsts, with his story of how his sheepish grin caused him problems in the military. So look out for that as he tells his story. Please welcome Randy.
Improv has a special place in my heart. About 3 years ago, I'm trying to talk my wife into taking a 3-day-long improv class with me. I think this will be perfect for Gail and I because she has a great sense of humor and we both love comedy, but Gail has stage fright and she's reluctant. So I really start selling this. I say, you'll love it, and it's at Second City in Chicago. It's like the comedy center of the universe. And it's also they'll just teach us about improv techniques and what happens behind the scene to make things funny. And it'll be like improv appreciation class. You won't even have to get on stage or act. Now, I never lied to my wife, never before this. But this is the one time I think it's worthwhile because this is really important to me. So no stage, no acting. Gail agrees. We're going. So now we're in Chicago, and the class is not at all as I had described it. Within the very first few minutes, the instructor has us up on the stage and improvising. Gail is trying to do her best interpretation of a disco dancing Frosty the Snowman. Like, coming to life, ho, 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 coming to life. And I think it's great and hilarious, but Gail is shooting looks like daggers across the stage at me where I'm trying to improvise Santa on a skateboard. So we get through the 3 days, and I love it, and Gail has some fun with it, but afterwards she comes up to me and she says, that's the last time I'm doing improv. From now on, I'm just a fan and a spectator. Well, that was 3 years ago. Fast forward to last year at this time, and Gail's father, who's 90 years old and is lovingly known by everyone in the family as Pop, is in the hospital with pneumonia and serious heart problems and increasing dementia. Pop is a wonderful human being. Every word that comes out of his mouth sounds like encouragement or appreciation or humor. And we don't know it then, but these are going to be the last few weeks of Pop's life. So Pop has done very well for the last 8 years in assisted living, but he has increasing short-term memory loss. But now in the hospital with new and more medications, it gets worse to the point where he's often confused and disoriented, which causes him to be uncharacteristically fearful and testy. And at the same time, Gail is been in the hospital with sinus surgery, so she's not around to be able to spend time with him when he really needs her. And I am not comfortable with hospitals, and I don't do well with serious illness. I can't even watch Grey's Anatomy on TV with my family. But I'm willing to get out of my comfort zone for Pop. So I am every day at the hospital with him. The first day I come in, he is frustrated, trying to change. I walk into his room, he's trying to change the TV with a cordless phone. And he's yelling at it because it won't work. And I don't try to correct him. I just agree with him that it's not working, and I hand him the right remote, and I say, here, try this one. And then we have a good time, just a real bash fest, bad-mouthing remotes and phones and technology in general. But what I realize, it comes to me that, hey, I kind of used a little bit of my improv training there. That was kind of the yes and technique where I just agree with what he tells me and add something else to it. So when he says something like, I hate the food here is terrible, I say, yes, and that's why I smuggled you in these chocolate chip cookies. And we continue like that. One morning I come into to his room and he says that, you know what, I was watching a special on ESPN last night, and turns out that both I and Arnold Palmer, this was about him, the professional golfer, and we were both born in Pennsylvania and we were both the same age. And I said, yes, and you're both good golfers. And then he continues on, yeah, and we were not only born, we were both born and died on the same dates. Both died on the same dates? I don't know how to yes and that one. So I just agree that that's interesting. And so anyway, a few days later, Pop's discharged from the hospital. And Gail gets better, so she can start spending time with him. So I tell her about my yes and experiences, and she gives it a try, and it works well for her too. So this is great. Improv is helping us help Pop. And despite the fact that Gail felt like a fish out of water when we were doing it, now she's taken this yes and skill and turned this torture into treasure. Well, a few days go by, and Gail comes home one day after visiting her father, and she is just as happy as a disco dancing snowman because she had a great lunch with Pop, and then they had a long conversation full of yes ands, and she said she just left him as happy and in good spirits as she'd seen him in a long time. And the very next morning, we got the call. Pop passed away in his sleep. And it was a hard loss for us, but it also felt good to know that his last all the time we'd spent with him lately had been so good, and especially that last day. And that's why, for Gail and I, improv has a special place in both of our hearts.
Thank you, Randy. Excellent. And as someone who has taken some improv classes for fun, I think that's a good example. We should use the yes and philosophy every day in our lives. That's a really good tool. My first day, I had to be a piece of seaweed. I wasn't mentally prepared for that either, but I got over it. Okay, next up, our next storyteller is going to be Swapna Deshpande. Swapna, to her surprise, found out that she can tell stories last year on the stage of Zotropolis and is forever grateful to Lancaster Story Slam. She wants to say that the stories express her own opinion and not of any institution. Swapna won the January Slam with the theme Blank Canvas, with the story of becoming a doctor and being a mother at the same time. Please give a big warm welcome to Swapna.
is wrong with me? I've done this for 25 years, and why am I so scared now? That's what I'm thinking as I drive to the hospital during the early parts of our pandemic, like in March, April this year. And I'm at the hospital's parking garage, and there is a big sign, "Healthcare heroes work here." Hero? Don't feel like one. I feel exactly like a chicken as I enter in the hospital. And I start seeing my patients, and soon there is a call from the ER. "Dr. Deshpande, we have a patient for you with COVID pneumonia, who is on a lot of oxygen." Okay, I dress up. Not this kind of dress up. Dress up is redefined as N95 and as face shield and as scrubs, gown, gloves, no ring, and fear. And I go down to the ER, I see the patient, I do what I can. And I hope for the best, and I get out. And I start scrubbing my hands like never before, as if I'm a big-time surgeon, whereas in reality, I'm just an ordinary medical doctor. And as I scrub, I look at myself in the mirror. Is that me? My face personifies anxiety. And I do have anxiety. I have seen Wuhan. I have seen Italy, and I don't know how much COVID we are going to get here in our hospital. I don't know how many are going to die. I do know I can do nothing about it, not a thing. Feeling pretty helpless, I drive back home, and that is when, though I try, I break down, all my tears start falling down. I'm home. I call out to my husband and to our daughter, "I'm home. Stay away from me, please." And I jump in the shower immediately, and I continue to weep there alone. I want to feel better. So I start thinking of some of the feel-good things said to me during the day in the hospital, like the son I call. His mom is under my care. He can't come see her. COVID restrictions. So I call him every day. I give him the ups and the downs, and today is not such a good day for his mom. But despite of the worries on his mind, he says to me, "Thank you for all you're doing, and bless your kind heart." Bless your kind heart. I say those words out loud 5 times as if I'm meditating, as if it's going to help me feel better, as if I'm going to find my silver lining, but I don't. And I wonder if I ever will find it this year. Next day, I'm back in the hospital, and I enter feeling exactly like a chicken again. And I realize I have not called my folks in India for a couple days now. I've been too busy. My mommy, my daddy, they're both in their 80s. They're cooped up in an apartment in India, in this town that's rampant with COVID, kind of like the Wuhan of India. So I call, and I say, "Mommy, I wanna come see you. It's been over a year." And then I should ask, I live far. I live very far away. I am the oldest daughter. I should ask, "How are you doing, Mama? How is your knee? How is that neuropathy in your legs? Can you walk? How are you managing?" Instead, what comes out of this baby mouth is, "I'm so scared, Mama." And my mama goes, "You are strong. You are brave, my child. You are my hero. And you are needed there. You don't come see us here right now." And with those trembling words of my mom, I know I am no chicken. I know I am a hero in my mama's eyes. And if that's not a silver lining, you tell me what is. Thank you.
Swapna, everyone. Thank you. And I think you're a hero in everyone here's eyes as well. Thank you for everything you're doing. Mark, can we get her a dog later? She deserves it. Some kind of a... You'll deliver one. Thank you very much. Okay, our next storyteller is going to be Steve McLean. Steve says, quote, "I thought I understood the art of procrastination until I became semi-retired. That has really upped my game. I just wrote this yesterday." Win or lose, I get to have fun here with some great storytellers. Steve won the February Slam with the theme #adulting, with his story about the time he decided to let loose and live a little and ended up in the emergency room. Please welcome Steve.
It was the spring of 2017, and my husband and I were getting ready to celebrate our 40th anniversary. Except he died 3 weeks before we hit that milestone. He died on April 1st, April Fool's Day. Surprise, you think you're going to hit 40 years and you fall 3 weeks short. And I came to realize that sometimes a silver lining is in your own perspective. He owned a small hair salon, and he had a loyal clientele that came and sat in his chair every 5 or 6 weeks, some of them for over 30 or 40 years. And it wasn't until the visitation at the funeral home that I realized what they had lost. They lost a friend, a confidant, someone that they could talk about the ups and downs of their daily lives with, a therapist. Except unlike a therapist, when they left, they not only felt better, but they looked better. And as they would tell me their stories, sometimes they would break down, and I would end up comforting them. But it was okay, because it helped me get through the day, and it helped me to see little pieces of his life that I didn't always get a chance to see. Because then you're going to start to go through the stages that everyone who experiences any kind of loss goes through. And they talk about the stages of grief, anger and acceptance and denial and all of that stuff. Well, that wasn't really the case for me. The stages for me started with the paperwork stage, where you're filling out forms for the funeral home and insurances and change of beneficiaries at work, and then all of the other things that trickle in over the subsequent days and weeks and months. And you're doing this while you're kind of in a fog, as if you fell asleep on a train and missed your stop, and now you're awake and trying to get your bearings and get back on course. The next stage was not too bad of a stage, the sympathy dinner stage. People don't always know what to say, they don't know what to do, so they want to take you out to dinner, which is just people trying to be kind, and as it turned out, I didn't pay for a meal in a restaurant for about 3.5 months. The next stage is the anniversary of everything stage. The 1 year cycle where you have to experience alone all the things you used to experience together. And for me, they were all pretty condensed, because he died on April 1st, and then a couple weeks later was my birthday, and then it was our anniversary, and then in May was his birthday, and then in June was our wedding anniversary. So the thing you need to understand about gay couples that get married is a lot of times we end up with 2 anniversaries, because the first one you have to pick, and it's the first date or when you met, and then when you get married, if you get married on a different date than that, then now you have a second anniversary to remember. The next stage after that was the twice as much stage, where you realize you have twice as much room in a 2-car garage with 1 car. You have twice as much room in a king-size bed, sleeping alone. But you have 50% less laundry. So it takes me less time to do the laundry, And I can sleep on one side of that king-size bed for a week and then move over to the clean side and sleep on that side for a week, so I only have to wash the sheets every 2 weeks. That's something. There's that. And then you have the stage where your friends start chiming in to remind you that you're still young, you can get out there, date, meet people. Isn't that fucking lovely? 60 years old and single for the first time since I was 20. If you're doing the math in your head, that was 1977. What could have changed? But eventually, before I get there though, I really have to get a sense of who I am as first person singular after a lifetime of being first person plural. And 40 years, I mean, what do I have to complain about? Not a lot of people get that. I got it. So I could look at what life took away from me, or I could look at what life gave to me. And I chose the latter. And lo and behold, against the odds, I did fall in love again. A couple years later, I met a wonderful guy, and now I get to experience a feeling that I haven't felt in 40 years, which is the magic in a new relationship. Sometimes the silver lining is in your perspective. Thank you.
Steve, everyone, thank you for that beautiful story. Let's get him a dog too. That was very sweet. Sweet story, and I'm glad that it had a happy ending.
Okay, how is everyone feeling? We're going to take a short intermission here, go to the restroom, wash your hands, get a fresh drinky poo. We're going to have a little countdown on the screen running for you. So go take care of those things, and then we'll see you back here in a few minutes.
Lang Living Realty is proud to support great storytelling through the Lancaster Story Slam.
Congrats to all the finalists in tonight's Grand Slam and to the winner of Best Storyteller in Lancaster.
And we look forward to supporting Lancaster Story Slam in 2021.
I hope you were able to refresh your drinks and maybe get some snacks. Thank you to Lank Living for their continued support. I'd like to take some time right now to thank the folks who made this season possible. I have many people to thank for the production of Lancaster Story Slam. Please give a round of applause to our Story Slam team, Melissa and Doug Snavely, Vicky and Dan Gabo. My husband, David Wilson, is our sound guy and recording engineer, and our son, Ben Wilson, is our video producer. Special shout out to JJ Sheffer, who is the producer of York Story Slam. Together, we teamed up to produce both events virtually this year. JJ has taught me the importance of having a hanky available while listening to stories. In addition to Luanne Sims, David Smith has been an MC for us too and helped us with some production advice. Tonight's photographer is PK Hill. This season and in the past, we have been assisted by Kelly Snavely, Chris Bradley, Michelle Johnson, and Julie Miller with their photography and social media expertise. Love and gratitude to my co-founder and mentor, Jim Breslin, without whom Lancaster Story Slam would not have been possible. I would like to take time now to thank Emily and the staff at Zootropolis for their help in hosting Grand Slam this year. Their safety protocols have made us feel very safe, and they have been the most gracious hosts as usual. I cannot wait until we can all meet up there at Zootropolis again, and I'm sure they feel the same way. This year, we had some special sessions of Story Slam. Those of you living in Lancaster, I'm sure, saw our extra special Extraordinary Give Story Slam this past weekend. We hope that that is a tradition that will carry forward into the upcoming years. And some of the storytellers in our community had the pleasure of presenting stories to Mrs. Spence's and Mrs. Zimmerman's classes at Elank Online Virtual Academy this year. Let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming. Here's Luanne again.
We're going to keep rolling. Okay. Our next storyteller is going to be Jamie Beth Cohen. Jamie Beth Cohen is a writer, storyteller, and podcaster who works in higher education. Her debut novel, Wasted Pretty, was published in 2019, and she is currently working on a sequel to it, as well as a memoir about her father's death. Jamie Beth won the July Slam with the theme Gifts, with her story about the gift of knowing exactly what her father wanted when he passed. Please welcome Jamie Beth Cohen.
So when you work in theater in New York City, your year is like a school year. It starts in September and ends in June with the Tonys. And the theater that I was working at when I was 25 years old starts in September with a pie-off, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a potluck with a pie baking contest attached to it. So that September, when I was new at the theater and really just sort of getting to know everyone and really wanting everyone to like me, the head of development who hosted the pie-off at his Brooklyn brownstone came up to my desk and said, "You're Jamie, right?" I was like, "Yeah, he knows me. Oh my God." He's like, "Did you make a pie for tonight?" And I was like, oh God. Because I didn't make a pie. Because pies are gross. Like gelatinous fruit, people actually eat that, like by choice. So here's a man who's hosting 100 people in his house for a party, and I couldn't even bake a pie. So I was like, no, I didn't bake a pie. And I was about to explain something like a lie and say like, oh, I was making it and my oven broke, when he said, "Great, we need another judge." And I was like, okay, that's me. Which is how I came to be standing in front of 100 people I really wanted to impress, eating something that I really, really hated. and there was a lot of it. There was this huge kitchen island with all of these pies and gelatinous fruit for miles, and 100 people watching me and the 2 other judges eating the pies they had made. So my boyfriend, now husband, is sitting in the first row of the audience, laughing his ass off. He cannot believe that I have not talked my way out of this, which, let me tell you, right now at 45, you couldn't pay me enough money to eat pie. But at 25, I really wanted people to like me. So I did the next best thing. I tried to drink enough alcohol so that I didn't taste the pie. It didn't work. So now I'm drunk, I'm eating pie, and people are watching me. And somehow I didn't throw up, which is maybe the best thing about the night. But at the end of the evening, my little department huddled up in the living room to say goodnight, and our normal working hours were 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. But the next morning, my boss had scheduled a meeting at 8 a.m. with an outside professional group and had expected us all to be there. And even before I got drunk and ate pie, I was mad at him because the next day was a primary voting day. And I couldn't wrap my head around waking up, voting, and getting to work by 8 a.m., which is a time I had not seen since I had moved to New York City. And so he's looking at us and he's like, yeah, I don't think we all need to be there tomorrow at 8 a.m. I was like, okay, this is good. He said, would any of you like to volunteer? And thankfully, the intern, who never drank and lived around the corner from the office in Midtown Manhattan, was like, I'll come in, I'll make the coffee, I'll take the notes. And I was like, okay, I'm drunk, but I know that this means that I can sleep in a little bit and still vote and get to work at 10 a.m. And I was like, okay, we're good. I'm gonna make it through the night, we're good. And so they had called cars to take us home, and so they were calling our names. And I am here to tell you that the silver lining of drinking so much alcohol in hopes of not eating gelatinous fruit is that when your boss looks at you and realizes that you will not be sober if you turn up at work tomorrow at 8 a.m., is that on Tuesday, September 11th of 2001, I was home with my boyfriend, now husband, in Brooklyn, and not across the river in Midtown, wondering if and how I was ever going to get home. Thank you.
Jamie Beth Cohen, everyone. Wow, I did not see that ending coming. I thought we were just talking about pie, and I like pie, and I was thinking our judges here don't have to eat any pie. You just have to listen to wonderful stories. But they want pie. Yeah, I like pie. Gelatinous fruit with crust. With the crust, it's good. Okay, thank you for that story. We are going to keep rolling along with our next storyteller, and that is going to be Beth Horenkamp. Beth has been telling stories at Lancaster Story Slam for 4 years. Most revolve around her family of a wonderful husband and 4 children, or her day job as a cancer doctor. Beth won the April Slam with the theme Ink, with her story of corresponding with her grandpa, Jack. Please welcome Beth.
Thank you. So, the day that you graduate from medical school, you get to call yourself a doctor. But Swapna knows, and I know, and anybody else who's a doctor knows, that the journey to really becoming a doctor is a long one after that. And it's full of a lot of clouds. Hard lessons, long days, sleepless nights before you really get to be a doctor. My second year of training, I have to say that no cloud loomed larger in my life than my outpatient clinic. I had entered medicine like most doctors with a fire that I was going to make people well, and that had been drowned in a deluge of people that needed desperately to stop smoking, start exercising, lose weight, and fix the relationships in their lives. But they thought that I had a pill. I was going to make the sun shine, and none of that necessary anymore. I can't imagine it was that way for everybody, but God clearly did not want me to be an internal medicine doctor only. So in the second year of my training, we had one morning a week of clinic, the rest of our time being devoted to the hospitalized. And I had just sit down, a treat, had a celebratory donut, a big treat, because my first clinic patient had not shown up. Woo! I get an extra hour in my day. Beep, 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 beep. Beeper goes off. There's another patient down in clinic. You have to come back. You have to come see this patient. So I go down to clinic, and Mr. Wilson flies into my office in a wheelchair, his corpulent belly partly obscured by a vomit basin. He's got a medicine list as long as my arm. He looks up at me through his glasses that I think he got in basic training. I was in the Air Force then. And with his husky smoker's voice said, "I'm sick." No kidding, right? You really didn't need to tell me that. So I take a few little stabs at seeing if I could help him. My fire's low, clouds are thick. I say, you know what, you are too sick for a clinic visit. I get an orderly to take him to the emergency room. I'm not proud of that, but I'm relieved. I think the storm has passed. 3 hours later, beep, 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 emergency room. We've made him much better. You have to see him tomorrow. Oh, jeez. So the next day, I go down to clinic with much trepidation. Mr. Wilson rolls back into my clinic room, no vomit basin this time, and he looks at me and he says, "I need help." I said, "Doc, I have a nephrologist, I have a pulmonologist, I have a cardiologist. I need a quarterback. I don't want to be in the hospital anymore." Whew, wow. Ray of light, connection. I became Mr. Wilson's quarterback. I learned about his medicines. I really, really learned about his medicines. And more importantly, I learned how to teach his wife about his medicines because she was a big part of our team. And so she called me every Monday. I worked with his medicines. We talked about his diet, and he wasn't well. He was not well. But he got less sick, and he could do some stuff. That was clearly the silver lining for him. The silver lining for me was more of a surprise. I didn't see him that often in clinic because we talked on the phone all the time, but when I did see him in clinic, he talked to me about the things that he now could do, and he really relished the simple things that he could do, like going for a ride in the country. I lived in Texas. I don't know if anybody else has lived in Texas, but the roadsides in Texas in spring are all grown up. They don't mow them. But you know why they don't mow them? Because Lady Bird Johnson planted wildflowers on all the roadsides in Texas, and I had never noticed that before. But I did, because he told me to. And he was a great people watcher because he was sitting still all the time, and he loved to go to the food court at the mall. And he had the best stories about the food court in the mall. He took my role as his quarterback very seriously. I didn't realize how seriously until I was down in the resident clinic in the bowels of the hospital, and the chief of the cardiologist department, we all kind of stood up when he came in the room, came down, and he was looking for me. Now, he was Mr. Wilson's cardiologist, and he said, "Hey, Beth, I just saw Mr. Wilson. I think we're going to have to change his defibrillator battery." I'm like, "Oh, wow, I didn't know you had to do that." He goes, "You don't have to do that very often." And I'm like, "What are you doing here, right?" And he says, "Well, I'm not allowed to do it unless you tell me it's okay." And I was like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "Okay." So the Monday comes. We're about to change his defibrillator battery. Mrs. Wilson calls me. And this time she says, "Dr. Horenkamp, I lost him yesterday." I honestly didn't immediately understand what she meant. I thought, he's in a wheelchair. How did you lose him? He's big. And I actually had this picture in my mind of him in a food court in a wheelchair. Lights are dimming, and he's looking around where is I? And then, of course, I understood. He'd been at his kitchen table. His heart finally failed in a way that even a good defibrillator battery could not have turned around. And then she did the most extraordinary thing. She said, "Thank you." He was dead. And she said, "Thank you." Because you see, I was his doctor. And that silver lining doesn't come true.
Get her a dog. Get her a puppy. A cute one. A really cute one, Mark. Beautiful, Beth. Thank you for all that you do for all of your patients. I also, on a lighter note, I keep a little list of some, you read a book or something, a little phrase just catches your eye and sticks with you and it becomes one of your favorites. And I like to write down little lines from Story Slam stories that stick out to me. And I wrote down corpulent belly partly obscured by a vomit basin because it was just a nice turn of phrase. I liked it. I liked it a lot. So thank you for adding to my collection. Next up, we have Doc Yoder. Let's welcome Doc. Doc Yoder grew up hearing stories from his parents and other family members. He is a husband, a father, and a gross daddy to 2 wonderful grandchildren that he gets to tell stories to. He also performs as a magician and a Renaissance fair performer. Doc just won the October Story Slam and earned the final spot in this Grand Slam tonight with the theme Unmasked, with his story of performing as a clown at a charity event. Please welcome Doc.
So at some point, I grew up to be an arrogantly righteous kid. I blame it on my parents and the children's Bible stories they read to us before we went to bed. If David could stand up to Goliath, I could stand up to the elementary school bullies, even if it put my life in mortal danger. I grew up to be an adult kind of the same way. My children and my wife can attest to that. I have 2 stories to tell you before I get to the silver lining. On October 31, 1996, I was teaching 3rd grade. We had a wonderful day. We decorated pumpkins. We wrote stories about spooky characters. We made this wonderful tessellation of geese migrating south for the winter. At the end of the day, I was exhausted mentally, physically, and emotionally. My 3 little children were waiting at home so Daddy and Mommy and they could go trick-or-treating together. I had a 6-mile bike ride through the darkness to get home. I was standing on the pedals. I was cutting corners. I was flying. I was 5 blocks from home on East King Street here in Lancaster when something white came flying out of the darkness. I saw it just before it slammed into the front of my helmet, knocked my head sideways. I swerved out to the middle of the road. I was lucky a car wasn't right behind me or I'd have been dead or really seriously injured. And my arrogant righteousness took over. I was scared, I was mad, and I went back to yell at the kids. And while I was yelling at them, what I learned later, one of the kids had a tube sock full of frozen eggs, and he swung it, came out of the side, slammed right into the left side of my face. Glasses went flying. I crumpled right over the handlebars of the bike, bent the front wheel almost perpendicular sideways. The rest of the bike wheeled over on top of me. It turned out I was right in the middle of a police stakeout. They were there within seconds. The kids ran off. They helped me find my broken glasses, stuck me in a squad car, filled out all the forms. I was late getting home, so my 3 little kids were standing at the door waiting for Daddy. Where's Daddy? We're going trick-or-treating. And they saw me pull up in a squad car. I get out, start walking up the steps, and they come running out. Daddy, what are you doing in a police car, Daddy? We want to go trick-or-treat. Are you ready? And I said, just let me get my other glasses on. Let me change my pants. I had a big rip in my pants. And then we can go. My wife took one look at me and she said, nope, we're going to the ER right now. I'm like, honey, I'm okay. I might have a black eye tomorrow. I'm okay. And that no-nonsense voice she has, she said, look in the mirror. So I went to look in the mirror, and the left side of my face was all caved in. We got the neighbors to take the kids trick-or-treating. We went to the hospital, and that's when the pain hit. I started vomiting from the concussion and the pain. A week later, they drugged me up, sent me home. A week later, they did surgery, pulled the bones out, got my face looking mostly symmetrical. But on the left side of my face, the nerves never really healed. So depending on the weather, depending on the temperature, depending on how tired I am, the left side of my face kind of feels like a nasty case of poison ivy or a bad sunburn. On the good days, it's just this kind of dull ache. So for the last 24 years, I felt that every time I wake up, every time I look in the mirror. Sometimes I wonder if I could go back to 1996, would I change my actions? Would I just keep riding home, leave that for someone else to take care of? And I honestly don't know what I would do. Because for the past 24 years, I've had to forgive myself every morning. And it's made me more tolerant of other people and their mistakes. It's taken a long time, but I've learned to not jump in and think that it's up to me to save the world quite in the same way that it did before. On October 16th, 2017, I and 22 other people stood in front of a large excavator. We were trying to stop the Atlantic Sunrise pipeline that was being built through Lancaster County. And Lancaster Against Pipelines, the organization that organized the protest, did a great job working with the local police. They did a great job organizing, a great job training us. But it was tense. There was a lot of wild cards. Nobody knew exactly what was going to happen. And when the West Hempfield Township policeman came up with his black official handcuffs, that arrogant righteousness took over. Except it didn't. That audacious righteousness took over. My hand went up without me planning it. My hand went up and I said, "Welcome." And we shook hands. And then he told me I was under arrest. Put my hands behind my back. He put the cuffs on. He locked me in the squad car. But he knew, and I knew, that my arrest began with one simple, audaciously righteous word, and that is, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. I am so glad I'm not a judge tonight because I wouldn't know what to do. Just fantastic story after fantastic story. We have 2 more to go to finish up the evening. Next up, out of my right hand pocket, will be Paul Armstrong. Here he comes. Paul is a joyfully active small business owner, part-time farmer, and overall tinkerer. Paul hones his storytelling by doing impromptu draw stories as papa to his grandkids. Paul is fairly new on the Story Slam scene and is delighted to be part of this Grand Slam and is looking forward to doing one for real at Zotropolis. Aren't we all so happy to be here live tonight? Paul won the June Slam with the theme Identity Crisis with his story of Misjudging Weeds. I missed that one. I'm going to have to go back and watch it. Please welcome Paul Armstrong.
You gonna be able to do that for me, Lisa? Oh, that's gonna be awesome. That's gonna be awesome. Hang up. This is a time in '76 when a phone actually clicks when you hang it up. Okay. I've been talking to Lisa, the daughter of my best friend Ron. Now, the thing she's going to help me with is, at the time, I'm a senior in high school at a Catholic all-boys high school. We're looking for all those good things, but if you don't have a date for the prom, it's kind of hard work at this point. Lisa knows everybody, so she's going to hook me up with Ann. I know Ann. Ann's this great girl, and Lisa does her magic. I'm able to take Ann to the prom. Now, I don't know if she went because she wanted to go with me. Girls like guys who are tall, dark, and handsome. I'm sort of the opposite of all 3 of those. And so, but she also knows that in Slasianum in Wilmington, Delaware, the prom is held at the Gold Ballroom in the Hotel DuPont, so that's kind of a cool thing. In any case, she decides she's going to look even cuter than she already looks, so she tries to get a tan in one day. She's Irish. This is May. Okay, you don't do this, all righty? I pick up Ann, and she's gorgeous and glowing. Okay, she's glowing. She's in a lot of pain. So we don't do a whole lot of dancing because her beautiful dress is a little too uncomfortable for her. So we get through the prom, and afterwards say, hey, let's go to the prom parties. You know, we're all looking forward to prom parties. My friend Keith is going to have one. Keith is tall, dark, and handsome. She's like, I'm in too much pain. So I said, well, you want to just get changed into something comfortable? She goes, no, that would be kind of weird. I was like going to the prom party by myself wouldn't be weird. And so I drop her off at home, which is on one side of Delaware. I go back to the other side of Delaware to my friend Keith's house. Of course, they're wondering, where did Paul go? I walk in. They're like, you're a little late. Where's it? This is the cloud. I'm like, oh, man, this is embarrassing. You know, you're looking forward to all this happiness, and I'm there without my date. So, you know, muddle through. Well, my friend Pat is there also, and his girlfriend Patty. Now, Pat and Patty have been going together for a while. I know Patty really well. She is the life of every party. But more importantly, Patty's fundamentally a nice person. So Patty has sort of taken, I'll say, pity on the fact that I'm there without my date. So unbeknownst to me, she and Pat conjure up a scheme where at Pat's graduation party, which will be in a couple weeks, which is going to be a pool party, she's going to bring a couple of her friends. It'll kind of look casual, right? Doesn't look like a double date, doesn't look like a blind date. So Pat fills me in, and she's going to bring her friend Diana and her friend Mary to this pool party. So I think this is kind of cool, kind of a silver lining. Like, because my date got sunburned, I might actually have another date. So this is really cool. So I go to the pool party, and Patty comes with Mary, who's really cute, and she comes with Diana. Now, you know, you're kind of wondering, like, okay, how is somebody going to be available? So I'm not sure what to expect. Well, Diana comes in, and I am hit by the Italian lightning bolt. Boom! I know this girl is like the girl of my, like, I can even dream of a girl this gorgeous, this cute, so lovable. You know, she's petite, so, I mean, I'm short, so this is an important criteria here. And so it's a pool party, and Diana likes to swim, so we're both swimming in the pool, and I'm trying to make a fool of myself. I probably am making a fool of myself. You know, your hair is always going the wrong way, and your nose is running, and all that good stuff. So toward the, the evening goes on, and people say, hey, we're going to go inside, watch this brand new show that's really popular. It's called Saturday Night Live. And so everybody starts going in to watch this show, and so I'm getting dried off, and I'm trying to get the water out of my ear, and I'm like doing this, you know, like you do when you're trying to get water out of your ear. But unfortunately, I stepped on the cover to the pool skimmer. Shattered. Whoom! My leg goes right down that pool skimmer, and it goes, takes the skin right off my leg. So, you know, when you're wet and that part of your leg is just blood all over the deck. Mrs. Connors, Pat's mom, is a nurse, so she's trying to take care of me. Mr. Connors, a lawyer, is like, oh, was it? I said, Mr. Connors is okay. So my friend Keith, the tall, dark, handsome one, he was trying to get Mary's attention, but I see him going in to watch Saturday Night Live, so he'd be stuck there getting bandages. He's kind of smirking. I was like, stick with Mary. And so then Diana walks by. Now, in the conversation, I had heard that she was going to head to Penn State, learn to be a nurse. So thinking I'm so cool, I'm like, hey, you know, maybe you could start your nursing now. She's like, I'm not one yet. And then she goes. So by the time I get into the Saturday Night Live show, you know, she's already got her seat. So I'm like, great. You know, I thought that silver lining was I was going to get another date, but then I go be a klutz. Well, like I said, Patty, she's a nice girl. So she's already got a recovery plan. So she tells Pat, hey, Diana says that if Paul calls, it would be okay. So, oh, wow. Maybe this is going to work out. So I asked my dad permission to call long distance, because that's what you do back then. I literally dial a phone. Okay, hello, yes, Diana there? Hi, Diana, this is Paul. And I hear this, oh, hi, Paul. It's immediately obvious that my voice doesn't go with the face that she thought was going to call. I guess she's expecting the tall, dark, handsome one to call. That's not. So now I realize I have to bail myself out somehow. So I said, I'm the one who fell through the pool cover. So she goes, oh, so either she took pity on the clumsiness or whatever, but we end up going out on a date. So there I have a couple silver linings. So, but you know what? I'm going to have to break the rules of the story, because that girl did become a nurse, and she's had to fix a klutz quite a few times, because the real ending is she's been my beautiful knockout silver lining bride for 40 years, and I'd call that a platinum lining. Thank you.
Paul Armstrong, excellent. I was so hopeful for that happy ending. I'm so glad we got it. That is fantastic. See, if it was today, you know, I don't know what's going to happen in 20 years when people go to tell their dating stories, and it's like, I swiped right, and then I swiped right, and then I swiped left, right? Nobody will have stories like that anymore. So thank you for sharing yours. Our final storyteller of the evening has probably figured out who he is by now. It's Tony Crocamo. Okay, I need my glasses to read this very special bio. On the cusp of his dotage, Tony, who this year turned 21.6 Celsius, which is, are you 150 years old? What is that in Fahrenheit? I don't know. finds himself reflecting on life, particularly the past year. 2020 has been difficult for all of us, tragic for some of us. But years can't be good or bad, easy or difficult. They are just bookends. It's what we put between the bookends that counts. So let's agree that whoever selected the 2020 books is a real tool. Tony won the March Story Slam with the theme Luck, with the story of preparing for his first communion, which is one of my mom's favorite stories, by the way. So please welcome Tony Crocamo.
Before I begin, I just want to say I just love this community so much. I'd like to give you all a hug, and I love you enough not to.
We love you too.
Thank you. For the last 7 years of her life, my mother-in-law lived in a home, mine. And when coworkers and friends learned that Chris's mother was living with us, many of them would say something along the lines of, "Oh my God, I couldn't have my mother-in-law or my mother living in the house with us. That would be terribly difficult." It wasn't so difficult, but then they didn't know my mother-in-law, Helen Foley. Helen, Mom, was a remarkable person. I mean, she lived to be 95 years old, and she had a joy for life and living. Her intellectual curiosity and sense of humor and knowledge and grasp of current events did not fade with her, all the way to the end. She loved to read. She enjoyed literary novels. And she and Chris would go to the library once a week and come back with armloads of books. And she read the New York Times and the local paper every day from cover to cover. She had a wonderful sense of humor. She was a self-taught watercolorist, did wonderful paintings. She had a sense that she needed to do whatever she could do to help others who were less fortunate than was she. And she was a faithful letter writer. She believed writing a letter was an act of love that really showed somebody that you were thinking of them and cared about them. So she wrote letters often. She was born in Ohio, and her family, when she was very young, moved to a small town in New Jersey. And she married the boy next door, who became a doctor, Dr. Jim Foley. As a young woman, she worked in Washington, D.C., in the Office of Inter-American Affairs. I have no idea what that was. Before moving in with us, she lived in a senior housing apartment building in Columbia, and she had many friends there. And Helen was always collecting friends. She would talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime, in the grocery store line, at the library, the people at the table next to her in a restaurant. She would just start chatting them up, and before she was done, she would have another friend. And she had lots of friends at the senior citizens home, but there were some people there that annoyed her. Among her pet peeves were people who complained about the slowness of the elevator, and it was a very slow elevator, complained about the slowness of the elevator in that building every time they got in the elevator. And Mom would say, "They're like 80 plus years old. They're probably just going upstairs to have a nap. What's the rush?" But then, they don't have much time left. So that was Mom. And shortly after she moved in with us, she decided that it was time for her to do her funeral planning. And so Chris took her to the appointment, and Mom made her decisions. And some of her decisions surprised us. No funeral mass, no wake, and she wanted to be cremated. Well, wanted is the wrong word. Decided to be cremated, I suppose, is appropriate. Now, this is a big deal in a Catholic family, to not have a mass and to not have a wake. And cremation, until very, very recently, cremation was one of the few activities banned by the Catholic Church that was not any fun. And Mom realized that her decisions might be an unpleasant surprise for the family, so she decided to write all of her children. She had 7 children, 4 girls and 3 boys. And she wrote each of them a letter telling them of her plans. And when she mentioned the not having a wake, she pointedly added that visiting hours are now. Death is probably the darkest cloud in our lives, but Helen Foley, a woman who loved life, because she was able to face death fearlessly and talk about it with her family, brought a silver lining to that very dark cloud. And we miss you, Mom. Thank you.
Thank you. Ooh. Thank you, Tony, and thank you to all of our storytellers tonight. Tearjerker after tearjerker, 10 outstanding stories. This is one of the few story slams I've ever been to where I honestly think any one of you could be the winner tonight, and I would. You all deserve it. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know how our judges are going to come to a decision, but they will be tabulating their votes right now while I give you a few reminders, and we'll have our big announcement of the winner in just a few minutes. While they add up the scores, I'd like to remind you to please sign up for the Lancaster Story Slam newsletter. You can do that at lancasterstoryslam.com, and that's also where you should go to check out the themes for next year. They will be posted there in December. Also, Lancaster Story Slam has a monthly podcast that features 3 of our favorite stories from each month's Story Slam. This year, our podcast is sponsored by Lanc Living, which is a local real estate and property management firm based in downtown Lancaster, serving communities throughout Lancaster County and focused on providing clients with ethical and knowledgeable service. Lanc Living is proud to support great storytelling through the Lancaster Story Slam. So check out the Lancaster Story Slam podcast on Apple Podcasts or from the website, lancasterstoryslam.com.
Wow, I do not envy the judges. While we're tabulating the judges' scores, I am very proud to share that my company, Wilson Media Services, not only produces this event, but also the videos for all the stories, and produces the Lancaster Story Slam and York Story Slam podcasts. You'll find videos on our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to subscribe to our podcasts wherever you subscribe to podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to be notified when we have new episodes posted. I'd also like to mention that we're looking for additional sponsors for our 2021 season to help us defray the cost of producing Story Slam. If you know of any local small businesses that might be interested in partnering with us, please reach out to me after tonight's event. Now let's get back to Zootropolis and learn who has earned the title of Best Storyteller in Lancaster for 2020 and has won this awesome trophy and will have their name engraved on this awesome Storyteller's Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to announce the 2020 Lancaster Story Slam Grand Slam winner is Steve McLean. Yay, Steve! I'm sorry the prize patrol couldn't show up at your door to present this to you live, but I'll have your prize pack sent out to you as soon as possible. Thank you again to Zootropolis for helping host, and thank you to the Story Slam team for making tonight possible. We look forward to seeing you next year. Be sure to sign up for our newsletter and watch our website for the announcement of our 2021 dates and themes. Our January Story Slam will be held on January 21st. Hope to see you there. Thank you and good night.